Excellent. So, guys, we will get started. Yeah. So, my name is Deirdre Madden. I work with the disability support in University College Cork and delighted to be working with the head this morning on a presentation outlining that assistive technology is absolutely for everybody. So, at the outset of this, can I just ask you, have you ever used an electronic toothbrush? Have you used a remote control for your TV? Have you used a lever handle? Possibly the room you're in now, that the door has a lever handle on it. The electronic toothbrush was developed for people with motor neuron disease. The remote control for your television was developed for people with a physical disability. And believe it or not, the handle on your door was the special handle for the person with the disability, for the person with arthritis, that was retrofitted into their home expensively, quite time consuming, because the doorknobs before that would be difficult for somebody who had arthritis if they had grip issues. So assistive technology, I see all the time. It's people with disabilities that are leading the way with technology, and then everybody else catches up going, that's just a clever way to do it. That's just a really convenient way to do it. Similarly, with something like a ramp, I can push my trolley of laptops up a ramp. Someone else can push their buggy. Someone else can push their wheelchair. Somebody else can bring their bike up into the office. And it doesn't stop people who like using stairs using the stairs as well. That's a particularly elaborate stairs and ramp, but you get the idea. So assistive technology, or I'm moving towards calling it inclusive technology, can make impossible tasks possible for people who've got disabilities. So I use some fabulous tools. I am dyslexic, but I generally use some reading tools that are aimed originally at people who are blind, who cannot engage with text unless they have the text scanned and photographed and maybe read out loud to them. But I use it for my dyslexia, and I know people who use it just because it makes life a little bit easier. It's a little bit more convenient for them. So the tools that were originally aimed at making impossible tasks possible for people with disabilities, of course my mouse lets me down, that they can increase the functional capabilities for absolutely everybody. So you can see on my screen here, I've got speech to text built into PowerPoint. As I'm speaking, it's typing what I'm saying, but that's really handy for, I was arranging a funeral a couple of weeks ago. We were going through the prayers of the faithful. I dictated the prayers of the faithful onto my Android phone with the free app called Live Transcribe. I copied and pasted it into text messages to the people who were doing the readings and the prayers for the faithful, and it just made the job so much quicker, so much easier. Having text converted into being read out loud, converting text to speech, that is becoming more and more and more popular. Originally developed for people who were vision impaired or had a different text disability, but that I can go out and walk the dog and have a book read to me is fantastic. That I can be driving the car to a school and having a report read out loud to me by my phone is a game changer. I'm sure a lot of you on this call use TikTok, and you know that you use the subtitles in TikTok an awful lot, especially if your earbuds, all of a sudden the power goes down on them. And I like to, apologies. And I like to dry my hair and watch a film on Netflix with the subtitles on at the bottom of that. These tools aimed originally at people with disabilities, learning difficulties, significant ongoing illnesses, can increase the functional capabilities for absolutely everybody. Then we come back specifically to assistive technology for learning, for reading, for writing, for studying. So traditional textbook, pen and paper, and traditional teaching and learning tools and methods do not suit everybody the same. And technology offers far more options, giving more flexibility, more adaptability, and a hell of a lot more inclusion. And the simple truth is it's 2023, and the pen and the paper and the book are, well, let's say we've got a lot more options in 2023. Wonderful for those who they work for, but they don't work for everybody the same. So assistive technology, inclusive technology, is any item that helps you to get a job done more easily and allows you to be more independent. And I can't encourage you enough to try out the tools, to experiment with them, especially now because an awful lot of them are free and built in. The next sentence is possibly the most important sentence in any training or presentations I give, is that it's going to take some time and a bit of effort to get to know your new technology. It's not like you pick up the technology, press the button, and now, oh, my writing difficulty is gone, my studying difficulty is gone. It's about learning that new tool. I know all of you on this call have probably been excited to get, oh, my wonderful new mobile phone. Isn't it fantastic? And within 10 minutes, you want to bounce that phone off the wall because it doesn't work the way the old one did. And there's a little bit of frustration. I know I got a new car recently, drove out and turned on the indicator in the car, and the windscreen wipers came on. But we didn't get out of the car and walk. When your phone is frustrating at the start, you don't go back to the very old phone with the cracked screen and the battery life of an hour. We persist. Could I ask you to persist when you're engaging with your new assistive technology? Whether it's speech to text, text to speech, screen readers, your basic touch typing, it takes a while to get used to it, but do persist. It pays off in spades. So for something like reading, you could get your phone to read your texts or your notes out loud to you on the bus, on the train, or out walking the dog. You can make sound files, and all of the things I'm talking about you can do for free or with standard tools built into normal technology. We can create sound files of text. If you need to learn poems or definitions or quotes, if you listen to them 2 or 3 times, maybe, I don't know, while you're in the train journey up to Dublin or something, it could make your workload, your reading load, a lot lighter. And we can listen to text in languages that we're learning to tune in my ear to the language and the pronunciation. So again, all of these tools originally developed for people with a disability are now just adding to the options and the convenience and the functional capabilities of all students. So assistive technology can give everybody choices around your reading, whether you listen to your text while seeing it. If I have a very heavy duty thing that I have to read, I'll pop on my headphones and I will get the computer to read it to me while I'm seeing the words being highlighted as I'm going along. For other people, they may not like taking in the text via audio, but black text on a white background doesn't suit everybody the same. Perhaps you could adapt your screen to the font, the spacing, the color contrast, the magnification that suits your reading needs. And for some people, maybe with a stamina issue, or just because I've had a long, long day, sit down in the chair in the evening and listen to the sound files, listen to that audio book, listen while you're up and about and on the go, or maybe just resting at the end of the day. Again, giving you options for how, where, and in what way you take in your text, your learning materials. With respect to writing, and it'll be put on my headstone when I go down, I never stop nagging about the touch typing. It should be on the curriculum for everybody. To any of you who have engaged with touch typing, because it's been recommended maybe by your occupational therapist, you're going to be ahead of the posse if you've engaged with it when you go into the world of work, higher education, further education, and it's the keyboard will be the tool you're using going forward. But if I'm typing, I absolutely get the computer to support my spelling and my grammar. If I've got my work typed, then I can have my typed work read aloud back to me so that maybe I can revise my work. And what's really useful to me is if I listen to my typed work being read aloud back to me, I will hear my errors. I will hear the fact that I made a sentence a page long and that I should break that up into 4 or 5 sentences. If I hear my work, I can listen for areas of improvement going, oh, I should have made that clearer at the start, maybe, of that email, of that report, of that essay. And for people, when I say there's speech to text, so your device can type what you say. We've got Word built into, or we've got Dictate built into Office 365 Word. You can dictate to it as Gaeilge. You can dictate to it in English. You can dictate to it in French, German, Italian, Spanish, a whole range of languages. Voice typing in Google Docs, similarly, is completely free. Live Transcribe is in your Android phone or your Android tablet, aimed at the deaf and hard of hearing community. But if I'm out walking the dog and I get an idea for a project or an idea for some teaching that I'm doing, I'll dictate it to the phone And when I come back, I can copy and paste that to wherever I need it. And every single iPhone, every single iPad will allow you to speak to the computer and it'll type what you say. And let's say a lot of you maybe are preparing languages. It can be, especially as teenagers, we can be a bit self-conscious about trying out our French accent or trying out our Spanish accent if we're speaking to our peers in the classroom. But I might be a little less self-conscious if I'm trying to, wrap my tongue around some of the French pronunciations if I'm speaking to my phone. And my phone, depending on how accurately I pronounce it, will pull that up on the screen for me. I am an enormous fan of mind mapping. It appeals to the strong visual component of a lot of people's learning styles, but I really like it for planning and structuring written work as well. And it's a really powerful tool for studying where you can put in images, you can put in sound files, links to website, links to YouTube videos. And it's a real multi-sensorial tool. It's really powerful for teaching, for note-taking, for studying, and for revising. Another handy study tool could be Quizlet. So if anybody's ever done flashcards where you put a word on the front of the card and you turn it over for the definition, Quizlet is a really nice digital version of this that again allows you to put in links to online materials, again enhancing its options. And I think a fabulous way to study is to listen to that poem, those definitions, on repeat to revise and to consolidate what we've been learning as well. So I wanted to do an example today. Could I just check, guys, do we have the person who's typing captions, or will I leave these on?
You're okay to leave those on there, Deirdre. We just had a bit of an issue. We can't have the manual captions here.
Okay, it's just if I'm pulling up other things on my screen, I can make it smaller to leave the captions on, yeah?
Yeah, if you do that, that would be great.
Okay, perfect. So I've got my best pal here. Let me just drag this off my screen. My best pal is mind mapping with Xmind. Xmind 8 is a lovely free one for your Windows device, and you can use Xmind Zen. We're just going to have some fun shrinking this down. There we go. I just want to make sure we've got some captions. Excellent. So 1 second, I've got to make it try and fit on the screen because it is actually going onto my second screen over there. So this is Xmind, and I'm going to do a quick example of how I can use a mind mapping program to plan and structure my written work, to export it to a word processor, to dictate in under my plan and my headings, and then to have it read aloud back to me. And while that can be a game changer for people with dysgraphia, developmental coordination disorder, dyslexia, some people maybe who've organization or language expression difficulties, there are very few students to whom, and indeed very few educators to whom this isn't an extremely valuable tool. So I've just started a new blank mind map. I'm going to keep the example nice and easy for a Saturday morning. We're going to do an essay on my hobbies. So I'm just going to type, said she, hopefully. I love it when you're demonstrating technology and it blows up in your face. There we go. My apologies. I was expecting a little bit too much for it. My computer is on a bit of a go slow. There we go. So my hobbies. And I press return twice. I will link later on to some videos where if you want to learn how to use this, we've got some lovely training videos, both on the AT Hive and in the UCC's Technology to Make Learning Easier resource. I'm not going to do a lot of explaining. This is just a quick demonstration. If you want more detail on it, then the videos later on will be helpful. I try and get into the habit of writing an introduction. I press return twice and I'll go, okay, my hobbies are music. I'll pretend I like sport. All I'm doing is pressing enter between each one. I like cooking. I love natural history. And I love pottery, we'll say. And do a conclusion. So you can see how quickly you can throw a lot of ideas out onto the screen. Over at the right-hand side in the outline view, I now have a plan for my written piece. And again, I'm keeping it simple and short this morning, but I have seen people do their assignments, their projects, their classroom-based assignments, their assessments, their masters, even PhDs using this to keep it organized. But we're keeping it nice and basic today. If I click on music, I can get a subtopic off of that saying, okay, I like the guitar. If I could spell it, I'd be great. Guitar, I like the fiddle, I like choir, and I like gigs. Don't worry, we'll get it to help with my spelling later on. If I click on guitar, I can get subtopics. So it literally can get huge quite quickly, but we've got a drill down function to help us focus on individual branches. I like the acoustic guitar, I like the electric guitar, and I give lessons. And you can notice at the side how it is putting in these headings under the appropriate original branch. So similarly, so watch, keep an eye on sport here. If I click on sport and I do my tab button, I'll say I like swimming and I like hill walking. And you can see it's populated it in at the side. That does presume I am organized enough to have that plan in my head. I don't. So usually what I do with the mind mapping is I throw ideas out and then I rearrange them afterwards. And to do that, I double click anywhere in the blank mind map and I get what's called a floating topic. And I'm going to put in, oh, I like dancing. I click anywhere in my blank mind map and I'll say I like cooking with Indian spices. And clearly I'm hungry this morning because we're baking bread. And afterwards, once I've thrown out the ideas, I can then rearrange them afterwards. So I'm going to drag my Indian spices over here, click and drag again once my mouse skills are halfway okay. And I'm going to drag my baking bread over to cooking. And I'm going to drag my dancing down to sport to make me look more sporty than I am. And you can see it's rearranged it in here. So that's like having a skeleton for your written piece. I'm now going to put a note on for the individual branches. And the notes are where the kind of the meat on the bones of the skeleton. So you can put in 10 words or 10,000 words. I just want to put in a sentence here. I love all music from opera to punk to trad to corn. Okay. Once you've finished your note, you click on the background of the mind map, and I'm hoping you can see that there's still a yellow note in there. You can go back in and edit it. So that's kind of putting the meat on the bones of it. Now that's, you take a little bit of time maybe and put a paragraph in for each one of those headings. And when we export it to our word processor, our written piece is nearly done and it's very well organized. So I'm not going to put more notes on there time-wise this morning, but I'm going to show you this wonderful book report that comes as one of the templates in Xmind. And we're going to export this to a word processor. So to drag this a little bit. So we go to File and Export. And you can buy Xmind if you want to, but I'm kind of cheap. I stick with the free versions or the free capabilities within it. You've got to give it a name. You've got to give it a location. And it's exporting it. You see a little progress bar here now. Oh, thank goodness, I thought the progress bar wasn't going to move for a moment. I click on open and it's going to open it. Which screen it opens it on is yet another question. Come on, don't do this to me. Oh, great. Of course, it has opened it on a different screen. Bear with me for one moment and I'll drag it onto the screen that I'm sharing. So we now have our Great Gatsby. Our mind map is here, but importantly, in here, we have whatever was on our branches is out in a linear fashion below here as a plan for my written piece. And wherever the notes were, with a lot more notes in there, they were in under those headings. And then I can select all of this. I can copy it. I can go into, oops, apologies, I'll make that a bit smaller. So hang on to our captioning. I've copied it and I'm now going to paste it. Just trying to make the screen maximize what we can see here. I'm going to paste it into Microsoft Word. And you can do this similarly for Google Docs if you're in a school that uses Google Docs, or if that's the kind of the word processor that you're familiar with. We have the mind map up at the top visually. You can take it in, leave it out, whatever suits you. We have our plan for our written piece down here, and it's very well organized, which is something that I don't do naturally well, but the mind mapping has helped me big time. In addition to that, then I can go in under the character Nick Carraway or any point in the text. And with Dictate in Office 365, I can click on the microphone. And then I begin speaking to the computer. And I was doing this in Irish last night. Apologies, I was doing a training session last night and I was demonstrating it in Irish to people. I forgot to turn it back on to English. Apologies for that. But it's good to show that it's trying to do it in Irish, even when I'm speaking to it in English. So we'll do that again. I can click on the microphone, insert where I want my text point to go, click on Nick Carraway is my favorite character in The Great Gatsby. To be honest, I'm bluffing because I've never read The Great Gatsby, but can you see how you can plan and structure your written piece with the mind mapping, export it to your word processor, and then dictate in under those headings? And I'm reminding you, you can do it in a lot of languages. Then in bog standard Word, I can go into review and click on read aloud to maybe proofread, proof listen to my work again. So I click where I want it to read from. I click on review. I click on read aloud. And give it a couple.
Nick Carraway is my favorite character in The Great Gatsby.
You hear that, guys?
To be honest, I'm bluffing because I've never read The Great Gatsby. But can you see how you can plan and structure your written piece with the...
And you've got rewind, fast forward, play and pause. And you can go into the settings here to speed it up if you're revising something you're very familiar with. Slow it down if it's in another language or if it's very new material to you. And you can change the voice as well.
Mind mapping exported to your word processor.
Okay. So that is a really, really whistle-stop tour of an example. But again, for some people with various diagnoses, that could make what was either impossible or extremely difficult, time-consuming and laborious much easier. But I don't see many students to whom that wouldn't be very, very, very useful. Could I direct you to, I'll just keep an eye on my time, I'm not doing too bad, to check out the Heads AT Hive, I believe it was mentioned earlier on, and explore all of the AT categories. And you can try the Discover Your AT tool that makes assistive technology suggestions for you based on a simple 3 questions. Because sometimes there's nearly so much there, it's overwhelming. And Ahead have done a great job in kind of narrowing that down to get it specific to what platform you use, what tool you use, etc. In addition to that, in UCC, so my job is to go to secondary schools, to primary schools, to teachers, to parents, to ed psychs, to OTs, to make them aware of assistive technology and to provide the training. And since I started doing that work, what is built in as standard to your iPhone, to your Android phone, to Office 365, to Google, and some wonderful free pieces of software. So we've decided to create a free technology to make learning easier resource. And I'll pop the link to that in the chat. Everybody is welcome to it. And better news than it's free is there's no password. So between the AT Hive and that resource, there will be a lot there to make your work easier, whether you have a diagnosis or not. And then we actively include those students. You can see that our course is divided into sections on making reading easier, making writing easier, making studying easier. And my permanent nag for teachers is to share their amazing teaching and learning materials accessibly. And for students to build up your IT skills because they're not on the curriculum. And you can always make an argument in your school that this has been driven for everybody through the new digital strategy for schools, and particularly for, particularly for the pillar 1, where we support the embedding of digital technologies in teaching and learning and assessment. But to make the most of any of your assistive technology, you need to build up your touch typing skills. There are free resources in the Technology to Make Learning Easier course for you to build up your basic IT skills, fundamental to which is touch typing and file management. And then my permanent nag to teacher is please, please share your amazing teaching and learning materials online to actively include all learners in accessing your notes legibly, consistently, and a student can magnify it, or a student can have it read out loud, have their notes read out loud to them, or you might even be out walking the dog and just have your phone read those teachers' notes to you. So I would ask teachers to build on the skills that you developed when you were pushed in the deep end during COVID and sharing your teaching and learning materials online, because frantically scribbling notes off the board is a massive challenge for students. It uses up valuable time to learn, to take in and to process new information, to ask questions. Our mad concept, contribute in class. And if you share your amazing notes online, it means all of your students have good quality, legible and accessible notes. Now, technology is not the mark of a great teacher. We've all had death by PowerPoint, and we all know amazing chalk and talk teachers. But if a teacher is putting fantastic notes up on a whiteboard, say, could they consider allowing the students to photograph those notes off the board? But then your file management had better be good, because if I photograph notes on the board on ionic and covalent bonding in chemistry, then I had better save that photograph, call it ionic and covalent bonding, and put it into my chemistry folder of my 5th-year folder. And so that you don't lose that picture of those brilliant notes with the 27 pictures of Nana's birthday and the 22 pictures of the match. I think I'm stopped way too early, but if there was any questions that I can take or any other demonstrations, I normally ramble on far too much, so I'm gobsmacked that I finished early.
No, that was brilliant, Deirdre, and I was laughing there at the end. There was like the 22 pictures of Nana's birthday, because I take pictures when I go to conferences, and it's a great tip, because I go to conferences for work, and there I am taking pictures of, you know, stats or reports that someone has mentioned, and I'm not actually saving them anywhere, and then I can never find them because I have so many pictures of my dogs. So I love that tip. There is one question that came in. Someone is asking, how do you create sound files, or how are they created? If they did want to record themselves, like how is that created?
So I have really bit of good news. A lot of the colleges have a tool now called Census Access, and it's not for the disability services. It's in their libraries. And if I have a journal, if I have a photograph of a text, if I have notes from a lecturer, I can send them to Census Access and say, could I have that back as a sound file in Italian with this voice at this pace? Or could I have it back as a Braille refreshable display? So that's grand once you get to college. But for those who are still in secondary school, this is our technology to, I'm trying to make sure the captions stay up. This is our technology to make learning easier. And if we scroll down, don't worry, the video at the start tells you to scroll down and click on start here. If we go into our section of the course on technology to make reading easier, then there are various sections on how to get your phone to read to you, your iPhone, your Android, Office 365. But there's a section here on Balabolka. And Balabolka is a free piece of software for Windows that will allow you to copy and paste text from a poem, for physics definitions for the Leaving Cert, the lines for the school play, and you can copy and paste them into Balabolka. You can pick the voice, pick the pace at which you like it read, and then you save it. But we're back again to file management. You better give it a name and put it somewhere you can find it again, because it really is the file management that underpins this, because the software itself is a piece of cake to use. So I'm happy to put that link specifically to Balabolka into the chat, if that's useful, because it's free. The video in there is free. There's nobody selling any product. There are other pieces of software. The Balabolka is the one that we use.
That's brilliant, Deirdre, and thanks. That would be great if you could put that in chat so the person can click on that link later on.
Yeah,
there doesn't seem to be any further questions. I suppose, you know, I think a lot of the technologies on the AT Hive, you know, which we actually indicate whether they're free or paid. I myself use an app called Google Transcribe.
Yes.
This is for when I'm in, so for those that don't know on the call, that I am deaf and I wear hearing aids. So when I am in a group meeting, I sometimes just open up the live transcribe on my phone, and it will start subtitling the speaker for me. It's
I was just about to show the exact same app. We're on the same wavelength for sure. And can I add that one will do it in 70 different languages, which is just phenomenal.
Yeah. What I really like about it as well is that you can scroll up. So it's continuing to use subtitle, but you can actually, I think there's 3 days that it saves of it. So, you know, let's say after a meeting, I'm kind of go, what did that person say again? And I just kind of scroll up and just see where they said it. But it's free. I do think it's only Android because
it's only for Android. But your bog standard keyboard on any iPhone and any iPad will have a little microphone that will capture text as well. So I'm not sure if that is picking up there. So myself and Caroline, who haven't met before, are on exactly the same wavelength. Trying to keep this in front of my head so it doesn't blot out with the background.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. It's definitely a game changer for a lot of my deaf friends and myself when we go out and about. You know, it's just brilliant. And the fact that it has different languages.
And it's a perfect example as well of a piece of software that was developed aimed at a certain cohort of people with a certain set of needs. And now, why wouldn't a load of people use it for a whole host of other purposes as well?
Yeah. Text messaging was actually invented for deaf people. So I was really interested to hear about the handles on the doors because I actually never knew that like obviously the old fashioned doors have the knob on them and they are really fiddly, but the handles make it a lot easier, I suppose. Yeah, so it's interesting how things were developed for disability and now are actually just mainstream. You know,
people with disabilities have been the pioneers for technology forever. Like, you know, the captionings are that now people are going, oh, thank God, that's helping with the minutes of that meeting that were originally developed for people who are hard of hearing. It's kind of far and wide. Even power steering was developed for people with a disability. Every one of you use power steering in your car every single day.
Yeah, so amazing.
Embrace the new tools, play around with them, grit your teeth at the start and then push through and definitely engage with them and find out how they work to meet your needs. You will come up with applications for these that maybe we haven't thought of at all.
Yeah, brilliant. What's your favorite piece of assistive technology, Deirdre? Like your number one favorite that you can't live without?
Well, personally, I use the mind mapping and the live transcribe, I would say daily. But I've just, I really like reading mode on the Android, and reading mode is now in Google as well, where it'll convert a huge volume of text. It'll adjust it to what I need for my site, my spacing, my color contrast, and I can pick from a range of voices to have it read to me. And literally while I'm out walking the dog, I have the text read to me.
Brilliant. So I think that's it, unless there's any more questions. We are going to go back into the main room shortly. I'm just kind of corresponding with my colleagues to see if room 1 is going back so we can all go back at the same time.
No problem.
But yeah, I suppose if there's any final tips, Deirdre, you're very welcome to share them now.
Touch typing and file management. I need so badly to get a life because I see all of the transcribes, the reading modes, the mind mapping. They're all almost like the attractive parts, the sexy parts of the course and the sexy parts of assistive technology. But unless your basic IT skills of can I use the mouse or alternative, can I input my text in whatever way suits you, and do I know where I've saved the stuff and what it's called, that kind of underpins getting the maximum. I do a lot of teacher training, never mind student training. And I've had teachers going, oh, that sound file was fabulous and it took 2 seconds. And I'm going, that's marvelous. Where is it? What do you mean? Where did you save it? I have no idea. Like, it's the dull and dish. It's reasonably easy. It's reasonably straightforward. But because it's not on the curriculum, we can't assume that people have an awareness of it. And I know people who can take apart the computer, put it back together again for you, no problem, and they don't know where they've saved their essay. So my permanent nag to the students and parents is touch typing and file management. To the educators is please share your materials digitally and accessibly.
Brilliant.
A boring nag.
No, Deirdre, I'm very much like yourself. I think we are both very alike because I would be very everything has to be in order, you know, year and then subject, and I was always like that. And I think some people their brains are wired that way, but for some people it does need to be taught, you know, where how to file and how to structure, even how to name stuff as well, you know.
And file naming is more
Yeah.
important than the folders, because you can now type in, oh, what was that thing I did in the Renaissance? And if you just put Renaissance in, and if you put Renaissance in the title, then you'll find it. So I think even the file naming is more important than the folders themselves.
Brilliant. So I might just finish up, Deirdre. I want to say thank you